What do LG's latest innovation and Samsung's most popular smartphone have in common? Not a whole lot, but we're going to compare them anyway. I'm Taylor Martin, this is Pocketnow, and this is the LG G Flex versus the Samsung Galaxy S4. If you look at both the LG G Flex and the Galaxy S4 in a vacuum, they're not entirely different. They don't have a lot in common, but they're sort of the same in the sense that the S4, at launch, was Samsung's peek into the future of mobile, through software innovations. Likewise, the G Flex is LG's take on the future, except in hardware. Yes, the Note 3 and Galaxy Round are more direct comparisons which make more sense, but bear with us here. Should you choose the more logical, safe smartphone, or should your cash be spent on what could be just another fad in a long line of fleeting innovations? Let's take a look. If you were to completely flatten out the G Flex, it and the Galaxy S4 honestly wouldn't look all that different. The G Flex looks like an odd mixture of the older Galaxy Nexus and the Galaxy Note 2, except for the rear power and volume buttons. Both the Galaxy S4 and G Flex have flat trim around the edges, center fixed rear cameras, and minimal bezel. One might call their designs unremarkable, if it weren't for the curved nature of the G Flex, which is its entire allure. Of course, it's notably and noticeably larger and heavier than the Galaxy S4. It's 160.5mm tall, 81.6mm wide, and 8.7mm thick. Compared to the modest dimensions of the Galaxy S4, it's undeniably large. It also hits the scales at 177 grams, or 47 grams more than the S4. And that's where these two devices diverge quite a bit. The Galaxy S4 is manageable with just one hand without any sort of curvature. It's a moderate size, with plenty of display real estate for most. At 6 inches, the G Flex is, like many other recent smartphones, gigantic, with more display than some might know what to do with. LG claims the curved nature of the display not only makes such a large phone easier to manage, it conforms to your face when talking on the phone, provides a more cinematic experience in multimedia playback, and its lack of rigidness might make it slightly more durable from your typical bumps and drops. We're certainly not sold on the ergonomic factor though. We still find ourselves struggling with wielding it one-handed. Once the newness of the curved display wears off, it feels more like a novelty than a feature. In the name of science and sadistic entertainment, however, our own Michael Fisher put the self-healing backside and flexibility of the G Flex to the test. And that aspect of the G Flex is praiseworthy. The design and build of the Galaxy S4, as we've covered time and time again, is unmoving. After months on the market, it feels generic and still hasn't lost that toy-like feel. That said, its reliability and resilience alone go a very long way. On the inside, the G Flex has a slight advantage over the Galaxy S4. It has Qualcomm's much-loved Snapdragon 800 chipset, composed of a 2.3 GHz quad-core Crate CPU and Adreno 330 GPU. The CDMA Galaxy S4 we have bears the Snapdragon 600 chip, though the S4 is also available in both Exynos Octa and Snapdragon 800 variants in other regions around the globe. Outside that, both have 2GB of RAM, 13MP cameras, Bluetooth 4.0 Wi-Fi AC, infrared, NFC, and LTE support. The G Flex has a 3500 mAh battery, only comes in a 32GB variant, and comes equipped with LTE advanced capabilities, though that's currently useless unless you're in South Korea, as is the DMB antenna. The Galaxy S4's removable battery is rated at 2600 mAh and it comes in 16, 32, or 64GB storage options globally. We're all familiar with the Galaxy S4's 5-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display. It's a tad oversaturated, but it looks fantastic with great contrast, brightness, viewing angles, color reproduction, and clarity. It's one of the sharpest, best looking displays out there with a density of 441 pixels per inch. LG instead went with a POLED display in the G Flex. Like the S4's display, it's quite saturated and blacks look great, as they typically do on any OLED-style display. The curvature also makes for decent viewing angles. But with a resolution of 720p on a 6-inch display, the visual experience of the G Flex is nothing exceptional. At full brightness, the display looks pretty nice, but under close inspection there is some noticeable pixelation. If you drop the brightness at all, the low points of the display become visible. The further you take the brightness slider down, the worse the display gets. At roughly 50% brightness, whites appear gray and almost like parchment, and highly saturated solids and gradients become noticeably grainy with faint signs of image retention or ghosting. Pull the notification shade down, leave it for a second or two, and swipe it back up. The elements from the shade, such as toggles or Q-Slide apps, are still faintly visible, and quickly fade away. It's not the worst display we've ever seen, it has some great qualities, but once you see the ghosting and grain, it's difficult to unsee. As far as hardware goes, however, we like the unprecedented curved display and self-healing backside of the G Flex. We give the edge to the G Flex, mainly for creativity, and on a quality level the G Flex feels more solid, but honestly, the practical differences are few and far between. Oddly enough, both the G Flex and Verizon Galaxy S4 are running the same versions of software, Android version 4.2.2, Jelly Bean. And while LG has done wonders to improve the appearance of its custom software with the Flex theme, the core differences between TouchWiz and LG's custom software are surprisingly slim. Both come with eye tracking software to keep the display on when the user's eyes are panning the display. Both have split-pane true multitasking software accessed by long pressing the back button. The notification shades and settings applications look surprisingly similar and, well, busy. Visually, the two are different, but from the overbearing symphony of noises TouchWiz and LG software play on every touch, to the bevy of additional software features over the stock Android experience, the two devices have incredibly similar software offerings, despite a few differences here and there. Surprisingly, performance-wise, these two are very similar. You might initially want to give the G Flex a leg up due to the Snapdragon 800, but lest we forget just how powerful the Snapdragon 600 truly is. Sure, in benchmarking and in various tasks, the G Flex probably seems significantly more powerful and faster than the Galaxy S4, but it's honestly negligible. While one stutters while opening an app, the other is blazing fast, and vice versa. Both may provide a smooth experience most of the time, but their heavily laden interfaces are to blame for intermittent lag and hangups that wouldn't otherwise be there. The G Flex feels more comfortable and roomy for gaming and multimedia playback, and it does have a little additional horsepower to boot. But honestly, both of these phones will slice through just about anything you can throw at them without too much trouble. The loudspeakers on both devices are quite large and loud. They're quite literally as comparable as it gets. They're rear-facing, provide an acceptably balanced sound, and they're both equally loud. If anything, the G Flex provides a slightly more full sound. We weren't able to test data speeds or call quality on the Verizon Galaxy S4 as we do not have an active SIM that fits. You can, however, check our several Galaxy S4 reviews for more data on that. But the supported bands of the G Flex limits it to 3G on AT&T here in the States. Call quality is modest, but data speeds aren't the greatest. Battery life is a landslide victory for the G Flex, as it typically is for larger smartphones. The 3500 mAh battery inside manages to power the G Flex through a full day of heavy usage quite easily. It manages to power through 6 and 7 hours of screen on time. The Galaxy S4's stamina isn't anything to scoff at, but it's in an entirely different league, averaging 3 to 4 hours of screen on time through roughly the same amount of usage. Both cameras are rated at 13 megapixels and neither are optically stabilized. Through snapping a handful of photos throughout the day, we couldn't help but lean towards the Galaxy S4. The colors may err a bit on the vibrant side, often making them look surreal, but images taken with the G Flex appeared washed out and low on contrast. The S4 seems to have sharper focus, and we had fewer issues with shutter speed and shakiness on the Galaxy S4. For what it's worth, both cameras perform poorly in low light situations, but the S4 squeaks out a small victory in image sensing. So what can we make of all this? It's quite simple really. The Galaxy S4 is a solid option for just about anyone in the smartphone game. The performance is reliable, the hardware is decent, and it provides one of the most balanced experiences available today. It's a safe bet, but it's aging technology. Old news. The G Flex is a gamble of sorts. Its bag of tricks may be nothing more than a gimmick. You have to ask, are the sparse benefits of a curved smartphone worth the additional money? Until the G Flex sees a more widespread launch, it's only available through limited channels for a whopping $1,000. If you're a gung-ho early adopter, the G Flex is the perfect way to get your hands on cutting-edge technology and show it off. But this technology comes with its caveats. Namely, the display quality is nowhere near comparable to other flagships. For now, we recommend most stick to the Galaxy S4, but a year from now and another iteration of each, that recommendation just might change. That's going to wrap up this comparison. If you enjoyed it, let us know by clicking the thumbs up button below and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this one in the future. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and follow us in all the usual places, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+ at Pocketnow. I'm Taylor Martin. You can find me on Twitter at CasperTech, and I will see you next time.